Hey guys, today's quick look is going to be over the brand new mob raid Promethea Rising. Let's get right into it. So, this is the leaderboard legendary for this event. Its name is Gemigish Kiri Hallet. I'm going with that. The stats are fantastic, as you can see, at over 10,500 HP, 12,000 attack, 8,500 defense, and as usual, being a champ, it has mediocre wisdom and mediocre agility. But don't let that deter you. It really doesn't need it, being such a tanky champ like it is. It doesn't really need the agility. It can take a few hits and then still retaliate with some heavy damage. This would be better than Dread Decipius. The problem is that Dread actually is better in one way, and that's the most significant way, which is having one cooldown. This has two cooldown, so it's not very good compared to any other one cooldown, and basically to be super effective with it, you're going to need three of them, which isn't good. Or three of them with 2 out of 3 cell fusion, even worse. So I could see it being used again, but it's going to fall under the tier of mediocre champ legendaries. And when I say mediocre, don't get me wrong, they're fantastic for anyone that's newer to the game or just getting their funds and just starting to be able to farm events for new bitter supplies and everything, resources and all that. The thing is that when you get to the highest high of playing, you have to have the best of the best, and this just doesn't fall under that. Stat-wise, it does, it's fantastic, but that one cooldown that it needs to be competitive just isn't there, unfortunately. So I'd say that its value is probably going to be 350 to 400, just because it falls under the highest of the high that you can have, like Druaga, for the stats. But it has the 2 cooldowns, so it's never going to be truly the highest tier that it can be, unfortunately. So I'd say that you probably should skip out on this event, especially if you don't have a lot of resources to dump on it. Now, if you do have a lot of resources to dump on it and you're just getting like a Gaia or something, then it's definitely a solid source of income with bidders, because you're going to be able to sell the legendaries. Don't get me wrong, they're going to be worth a lot. 350 to 400 is still a very, very large amount of bidders. So I'd consider going for it if I had the resources, because I don't think that other people are going to be, based purely off of its stats and its 2 cooldown. That's about it for this one, though. I really can't think of anything else I'd like to include. I think that it could be a lot better. I wish it had a 1 cooldown. I wish it could be a dread killer, but unfortunately it isn't. So, Nabuzar Adan has the random skill. It's a random all skill, so that means that it has probably not the same chance. It's probably 33% thwart all, 66% gale all, but it might be 50-50, who knows. Just based on the past, I'm guessing it's probably going to be 33-66. However, it's pretty good. It has decent wisdom, it has decent agility, it doesn't really need any other stats. It has under 2,000 HP, so it's not great. Definitely not fantastic at all, but the fact that it has 1 cooldown, thwart all / gale all, means that it's going to be just as reliable as any of the gale alls, but the possibility remains that it could also be a thwart all. I'm not exactly sure how this is going to fare in the market, because we haven't really seen something like this before. But I'd say it's going to retain some value from people that are making really niche bans that need to rely on RNG. And the fact that we're able to even bring RNG into this game at all is just very, very exciting for me, because I play a lot of games where RNG is extremely important, such as Binding of Isaac and other games like that, where just the how your cards are dealt are just the most important things that you can possibly have in the game, and I feel like that's a very interesting and exciting thing that can be added to a game, and the fact that we're having random skills that could also be very useful in other events like PvP and Dungeon is really cool to me. So I'm glad to see they're taking this turn, but I'm not sure about the value or uses that we'll get out of this fighter in particular. And we have another Warlock. I don't see this being useful at all. It has a mediocre attack, alright wisdom. I'll admit that's a pretty decent wisdom. Just over 5,000, almost 5,200. So it's alright. It's probably going to be used for lower tier fodder for attack and for wisdom. I could see it being used for both, definitely. I don't think that it's going to be useful because it has a 2 cooldown. And it doesn't really matter what skill it uses. If it's Gust or Scorch, then, you know, so be it, whatever, I really don't care. The fact of the matter is that any STG could do what this is doing, and at 0 cooldown, auto proc. So I don't see this being useful at all. I really would just sell it and try to get rid of it for a decent price during the frenzy. I don't see this being useful. I don't see it being used at all, really. I think that if it was going to be useful, it would need to have either more agility, like far, far, far exceeding the puny agility it has now, or maybe be a little tanky, so maybe have more HP and more defense. But as it sits, it's a pretty useless Warlock, just like usual, and I wouldn't pick it up at all. And finally, what you've all been waiting for, the Paragon for this event. I think that Promethea is awesome. I think that it has a fantastic, absolutely amazing sprite, and I think that it's just cool. I really, really like this Paragon. It has decent stats, so you divide each of them by 15, you get decent stats. It's not great stats, but they're decent. Alright, and that's what's important, is that it has alright stats, so it can have a decent output of damage once it doesn't have any edge. But I think that it's generally a very, very generic fighter. There's only one thing that I think will put it out of its usual generic Paragon-esque performance, and that's that it has a chance of a critical hit. Again, we have this RNG here that I was just talking about. I think it's fantastic they're putting this into it. This is one where I could see it actually being really useful and make this useful in the next events to come. The fact that it can do a critical hit means that it's going to do more damage, like significantly more damage, to enemies than it would normally. And depending on how high of a chance, how high the RNG is for this, it might be very useful, and it might retain a lot of value out of the event. We'll have to see, actually. I don't really know, to be honest, if it's going to be a high percentage. If it's only 1% for a critical hit, then there's no way that it's going to retain any value. It's just your generic 1 cooldown Paragon that you get every single event, and it's not going to be useful at all. The thing is that it does have a possibility of being very useful, so I think that there are going to be some people that definitely go for it. All in all, very, very good Paragon with the potential to be amazing. If the critical hit chance is high, then it's definitely going to be a fantastic Paragon that's separated from all the generic 1 cooldown Paragons that we've gotten recently. So, I don't know. It's really up to you guys if you want to go for this event or not. It's definitely a solid source of bidders if you're going for profit, and if you're going to compete in any events, I'd say that the barrier for entry into the building a legendary column, so to speak, of this event is going to be a lot lower than it would be in other events, just because it's kind of an underwhelming leaderboard prize. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to compete in it. I only have about 200 bits left over from the last dungeon when I went all out on Agraricans trying to get Momox, the elephant. But if you want to, by all means, definitely going to be a good event for profiting, and I just don't think I'd go for it if I was looking to build a new legendary that I'm personally going to use, because I don't think that it's going to be worth using in a higher tier band for something other than a tank. But that's just my opinion. Go for it if you want to. You know, I'm not the end all be all opinion, so that's just what I think about it. I think that's going to be about it, guys. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate it, as always. If you have any questions, just drop them in the comments below. I try to answer all questions and comments and concerns and anything really that comes into that section. Private messages, etc. So, thanks, and until next time. Hopefully I'll have the video for the stock market, so to speak. That's what I'm calling it anyways, because it really, Defender of Texel's market really does work like a stock market, and it's a lot of fun if you know what you're doing. So hopefully I'll have a guide for that out this week. I've been selling everything off and trying to make a lot of bidders so I can show you guys basically as in-depth as I possibly can how to manipulate and profit off of the market. So thanks, and until next time.